Hey everybody, how you doing? This is less than one day before the official start of the 2020 National Football League season. It's a season that, let's face it, you and I thought we might never even see, right? Because of the pandemic and everything else, and yet here we are. And it's also the first season that this admittedly quite beautiful building gets used. And that building you're looking at, if you don't know the name of it, is called Allegiant Stadium. And before that was called Las Vegas Stadium. It was built by Clark County and the Raiders in conjunction with Mortons and McCarthy and the National Football League, as well as a number of great people who had their input, most notably Sheldon Adelson and the man who is now governor, Steve Sisolak, as well as Nevada Governor Brian Sandoval and the Southern Nevada Tourism and Infrastructure Committee. They are to be commended on a terrific job well done. On the other hand, it is also a day that at first I didn't think was going to be sad because, as you know, I've been very close to this story. I hate to say story, but this situation, and have quite literally lived it. I was there on the 26th and 27th of March, 27th of March, when the NFL that morning in not in Las Vegas, but in Phoenix at the Arizona Biltmore, a vote of 31-1, granted the Raiders the right to move from Oakland to Las Vegas and to build this thing. And that's precisely what they set about doing. Although in fits and starts, it for a time looked like to me they weren't going to get it done. I mean, right out of the gate, there was the problem with Sheldon Adelson, which I'm not sure really was a problem so much as a trick. And then, of course, there was other news about their arguing. In short, there were any number of reasons to believe this deal wasn't going to work. Hey, Rich, nice to have you here. I'm actually very glad you're here. And thanks for your support. And I'm not saying that to say I'm going anywhere. I'm just saying thanks for your support. But there are a number of reasons for this to not work. And I want to get something out of the way while I'm at it. Some people have been pestering me about what I thought was a friendly, non-official wager that I made fun of and used for bragging rights. And the person that I made it with, who I never met, is, I guess, an NFL writer. But at first, when I thought I won, I teased him on video and all that, but I really didn't expect anything. And then when it turned out that the vote went the other way, I thought, oh, and at first I was all set to say, okay, let's figure out how to do this. And then all the signs it was going to collapse just started popping up. So I just held off. And I thought, just like what fell behind me, I thought the ball was going to drop. During that time, the person whose name I'm not going to mention decided they would take what they thought was my personal information and put it on Twitter. And at that point, I said, you're not getting anything from me. That was late 2017. This person is not only still pestering me, they've actually tried to break in to my PayPal account. I could have that person arrested. There are two occasions where I could have this person arrested. This person is psychotic. So those of you who bring up this person's name, if you aren't that person yourself, my advice to you is to stay out of it and get a life, okay? Because of all the things you could possibly want to do in your life, why would you want to get involved with someone who has a criminal attitude like that? There was never an official bet with a charity or anything. One moment, please. Like that. But I want to say that to get that out of the way as we open and go into this season. But that person is not wound tight. And I told them to stop and leave me alone. I told them this several times. And I'm saying it again, okay? Because what this person has done is grounds for being jailed in 2 instances. It's not worth it. Many of us have had friendly wagers or wagers we use to have, social media uh, faux battles where you gin up interest and you gain followers and that sort of thing, right? That was my idea. But to go further than that is ridiculous. And this person has been more than ridiculous. So some of you have come here and mentioned it like you had nothing else going on in your lives. So I'm explaining to you, all right? Get a life and don't do things that will send you to prison. Okay? All right. The bottom line is, again, there was every reason to think that the deal was going to fall apart. But it didn't. And that's because long before the Raiders even popped up, this city, Las Vegas, wanted to build a primal scream that it mattered as a big city. And that's been Las Vegas' thing for a long, long time. It's always remade itself with the objective of saying, hey, look, I'm here. And I'm not saying that derisively. I love Las Vegas. Some of you who got involved in this only because of the Raiders' move and nothing else were under the impression I had some dislike for Las Vegas itself. No, I never did, ever. In fact, a number of you now, I think, realize that I've covered the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, CES, for the past 10 years, okay? What I love about Las Vegas, I said in a vlog some time ago. And what I said quite simply is that Las Vegas has this magic quality about it where it allows you to believe you can have your dreams and do what you want to do. And it has enough of a culture to support it, but you got to have the right connections and just enough money. And when it comes to real estate, if you don't have that money, you can get started. Maybe you make deals here and there to pay people, but if you're not ready to pay them at point X, then that slab of concrete, that building doesn't get entirely built and it's incomplete, like the Fontainebleau, or what is now called the Drew. A friend of mine once told me that Las Vegas gets you a little bit pregnant. I've said that before on this show. I asked my friend Tony what that meant. He said, remember how there was this craze to have roller coasters, and you had a roller coaster in New York, and that started another roller coaster here, and then they stopped that. And so now you have a couple of venues that have roller coasters that are incomplete. It's like that. They go for something really, 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 really deep, and then all of a sudden it's not the thing anymore, and they're ready for something else. The Raiders are in a situation where they have to beware of the very real and very true and very quite likely possibility that dynamic will come to impact their project if it hasn't already. Meanwhile, there's Oakland. And what this says about Oakland, well, a number of people could say things. Rich has ideas, I do. But I think what it says about Oakland is that Oakland is not a city that is ready to, like much of the Bay Area, put itself entirely all out to maintain a sports organization. It always has to be the right alignment of the right people. And let's face it, we didn't have that. We started with a person who was the principal owner, Mark Davis, who really didn't want to be in Oakland. Some say it's for personal reasons going back to his childhood, his father, Al Davis. I don't know. Others point out that he barely stayed in Oakland, spent any time in Oakland. That's true. And the true documented set of reasons that, you know, mark off as the ones you want to put up in the museum say that, hey, he wanted to get involved in gambling and saw dollar signs and went in that direction. And then Sheldon Adelson said, hey, you know what? Here's $750 million. That is a big deal. And as Bruce Allen, when he was president of what is now called the Washington football team, reminded me, Zenny, you know, we, meaning the NFL, like public money. They do. I don't believe that people, at the end of the day, and I'll just say this, took seriously that Mark really intended to leave. That at some point he was going to turn around, whip out this deal, and have his own plan to stay in Oakland. I was one of those people. But looking back, what you have to see is a wreckage of actions, and it is a wreckage of actions that spell an attempt to fool us into thinking they were going to stay, knowing that they had no intention of going back, as Mark Davis has reminded us time and again, on promises he made to Sheldon Adelson. He made a promise with a person worth $35 billion and felt like he couldn't back out. And that hurt us all in Oakland. There was very little that could have been done, absent some sort of congressional action. What I don't like about the whole issue, and is this, and this was reminded to me, and it spurred me to talk about this in this way, is a conversation I had with some folks very dear to me who happen to be the parents of the mayor. And without saying anything in detail, you know, I will just simply say that they had, you know, decided that they were not sure whether or not they're going to watch the game, but they had a number of reasons, quite sound, to not want to watch the game as much as they watched it. You have to understand, these were folks who, as much as anything, were, you know, they were into the Raiders. For my birthday, my August 4th birthday, about 10 years ago, they got me this Ken Stabler bobblehead in a snowstorm with George Blanda. It's really cool. It's like a diorama, right? And so if you press the button, it goes Raiders, and it blows snow. I should bring it here next time I have a chance. It blows snow. It's really cool. I got to get batteries for it. But it's one of those things that you don't want to part with, and remind you of, because of its uniqueness, of how powerful fandom is, right? Just really cool. And then I think of people like, well, I was talking with Derek Johnson, who's running for Oakland at-large district city council seat, and this is not an endorsement. I'm just saying I talked to him earlier this week, and he said that what he's going to feel of the impact of the Warriors leaving is he's already felt, he said, a 30% reduction in traffic into his chicken and waffles place, and he shudders to think what's going to happen this season because the NFL and the Raiders are not active, and that's even during the pandemic. So, because if the Raiders were in Oakland, he would at least have some type of thing by which to plan a takeout program around, right? But that's gone, okay? So, but what I miss are people who were very much part of a family at the Coliseum that I discovered for myself in a very interesting way. They were always there, but I didn't realize they were there until this happened. And this was 2015. And in 2015, I had a press credential to go to cover the Raiders Arizona Cardinals preseason game, and I had sent an email to Will Kiss, who was then and I believe is still now the Raiders PR director or PR representative now in Las Vegas. And Will, I succinctly, I still have the email, told Will that I had two objectives. One was my primary objective was to see how then offensive coordinator Bill Musgrave was going to employ the Chip Kelly principles in the Raiders offense. Musgrave was the then new offensive coordinator for the Raiders. And then the other objective was to have within my sub objectives within that would interview Derek Carr. But my other objective was to set a record for the most YouTube video uploads during an NFL game. I put that right clear in the email. Okay? Right clear in the email. So here comes the game, and I'm, setting about my work of making these vlogs and everything, right? And then after that game, I got a good set of videos out, but during the game in the press box, you can't make any noise. All right, you can't say, I can't interview you. You can't cheer. It's all quiet. It's professional. All that, right? And you know what the people do in the press box? Basically, the people that represent these different publications, there's less of them now than then, of course, because of the impact of the coronavirus on media and the collapse of media even before that. But I digress. But what they do is they sit there and they type on Twitter. Twitter is owned primarily by Jack Dorsey, okay? Jack Dorsey should thank every journalist around the country for giving him tons of free content, valuable free content, to this day, to this moment, that make Twitter valuable. So basically, I'm sitting there, I'm watching them. They're all on Twitter. And at that time, that gave me the idea to make my own Twitter style platform called Tellin.me, right? Why should Jack have all the fun? But I'm thinking, you know what? Something feels weird about this. Why? I'm a vlogger. I vlog, right? I want to show you, what's going on and share with you where I'm at and everything. So, I started to really get incensed. And what I did was I took a break and I went out. And you know what I did on that August 31st day? I walked around and, man, you know what I discovered? I discovered in a very weird way that I had a fan base. Yeah, I had people actually watching me on YouTube. I didn't know. I had no idea the extent to which people were watching me until I got out of the press box and started walking around. And I've been to games before, but there was something about that point in time and getting out, and I suppose the viewerships that went up. And so because of all that, I went out thinking I got to get us some air and get out and, see what's happening. And this is what happened right here. These dudes, I met dudes like them talking to me about, well, here we go. Okay. This is what went down. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but I'm trying to make
the offense so far. The offense is looking okay.
Yeah, defense looks hella good.
Yeah, defense does look good, doesn't it? Yeah. Richardson trying to do something. He's trying to come. Dyer's in there right now. Actually,
got a lot of confidence.
Everybody's competing. I like that. Hey, tell me how many minutes more we got going. It's about right now 4 minutes, 14 seconds, fourth quarter. Woo! losing by a few. We got a touchdown and super conversion. We could win 15-23 Arizona right now.
Hey, thanks, brother. You got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, see ya.
God bless you.
God bless you too.
Hey,
See ya.
thanks for giving us the news.
You got it, man.
See you on
Thank you.
YouTube.
You got it, man. I'll see you.
See that? That's what I see you on YouTube. And I'm thinking like, man, I don't have that many subscribers. Do I? This was happening all over the place. So I'm thinking, you know what? This is where I ought to be. So I stayed out there. I didn't go back to the press box at all. I mean, it was cool. I love interacting with people. And, whatever you want to say psychologically, it's my way of connecting. I love helping people tell their stories. I love, the fact that they share what they think and everything. And it was just massively cool to have people just say, hey, Zinni, like what you're doing, that sort of thing. Keep it up. Hey, Zinni, let's talk about this. Hey, Zinni, talk about that. You get the idea. Yada, 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 right? And so I say all that in this sort of long-winded fashion because, excuse me, when I got back home, I got an email. All right. And here's, by the way, and here's another where I was there. If you're thinking about, for example, Derek Carr. All right. I did actually eventually get to talk to Derek Carr in a very big major scrum, because I wasn't alone, right? And that was here, all right, in the locker room. And so I did get my
Yes,
okay.
Man. First of all, I just feel for him because I love him.
And that's 4 minutes, so I'll just fast forward to this part. There.
Towards the end zone, try to think of the plays. There was a couple that we were just trying to get first downs. There was a couple. There was the one to Crabtree that we missed.
There.
And I saw him there, and it doesn't need a discussion.
Was that a throwback screen? Because it looks like you guys were experimenting kind of a throwback screen.
Yeah, it was. And just got it away. I'll just throw it away.
Did you lobby to go for it on fourth down? Any of those?
No. I let coach make those decisions. Obviously, we want to, but coach knows what's best for our team. Thanks.
Anything more for Derek, guys? Yeah, one more. Regarding the throw to Marcel Reese that gained 41 yards, it looked like a wheel route. Was that a new play, or was that?
It's just a different way to run certain plays that we have. I mean, we have hundreds of ways we can run.
Because it works.
And he did a great job. We saw, we saw on film, in Carolina last year. You try and watch everything. I try and watch everything. I saw one in the playoff game. We saw that that'd be a good thing to do, and the Reed kind of just took it there, and he made a great play.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
So there, I got to talk to him about that. I also asked him about the whole Musgrave thing, and he said, I don't know. I don't know. And so anyway, we get some of your comments here. Christopher says, 49er fan here, but missed that the Raiders are no longer in Oakland. Do you think the A's will stay? If so, where will they play? I believe the A's will stay and play at Howard Terminal because they have a number of contractual agreements that are in place. They're pretty hard to undo unless someone wants to spend the time and the legal money, But I think what needs to happen is the city needs a true recognizable czar that can make sure all the parties are together and that everybody is on track, and that the public understands what's going on. That's the real key, because a lot of people in Oakland and around the United States have no idea that and Mike, and if you have a chance, watch my interview, over 30 minutes long, with A's president, Dave Cavall, where he acknowledged that the very powerful redevelopment program that would be enacted will basically allow the use of over $1 billion in tax increment financing revenue to be poured into the area around the A Stadium and help the stadium in terms of infrastructure, but also help, and he's very quick to emphasize this, the city of Oakland in ways regarding housing, affordable housing, economic development, and infrastructure. Okay. That's a big deal. And a lot of people don't know that. And the city's got to do a much better job of really focusing on what it wants to do and explaining to people, not just leaving Dave out there by himself to do it, what the benefits of it are. I think they can get it done. I think they can do it. And I think there's a plan. I'm not saying this because of some belief in the people as God or anything. I'm saying this because I know what can be done to get it done. And I believe they will. If they don't make the right decision, I'm going to say, hey, look, you need to do this. So if they don't listen, to toast. It's curtains, right? But my point is that they have enough in place to get it done. We got to get out of the pandemic, first of all. That's first and foremost. But this idea that Oakland doesn't have any money is far less true, say, than what Las Vegas and the hospitality industry is going through. So, and you have to remember something. Oakland is part of the larger San Francisco Bay Area and a still extremely important tech community. All right. So take that in mind. Derek Douglas says, hello, how you doing, Derek? And he says, we may disagree from time to time. I didn't know that. He says, but I appreciate your thoughts. Derek, thank you very, very much. What do you think about the coming season? David says, hey, Zinni, I'm done with football. The LA move was one thing. This was the last straw. I was a season ticket holder since day one and a fan since 1970. Never again. Go A's, rooted in Oakland. That's David Halkin. And David, that basically sums up what a lot of people in Oakland feel. They are upset and not happy. But, David, something else that I have noticed from this is that, and that's also living out here. I'm way out in suburban Atlanta. There's a house with a family that's flying a flag. They're flying a Raiders flag, right? But, I happen to say one of the guys, say, hey, you're a Raiders fan. Hey, this is great, right? And it looked at me like I was, I had crawled out from under a rock or something. And I thought it was crazy. They weren't Raider fans. The flag obviously has some other intent for them. I'm not kidding you. These are not Raider fans. And the flag was tattered. Ew, all right. Just saying. Okay. Just saying. Derek says, you did give me info that I didn't know. Thank you. Appreciate that. Chris says, if the SF Giants could get it done in China Basin with private funding, I believe A's ownership can as well. They have more than enough money and the taxpayers do not need to put up funding, even though they have. And Chris, that's what is very important to realize, is that through tax increment financing, government money or public money will be used. It is not entirely 100% financed by the private sector. The only part that is, when I say it is not, I mean the ballpark district. The part that is entirely, at least the intent is to have it privately financed, is the construction of the stadium itself. Okay. But parking, streets, roads, that sort of thing, tax increment financing pays for that. All right. That's government. Make no mistake about it. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's been the way it has been some time. The A's like to use the term, and a number of people in sports like to use the term but for. In other words, what they say is this: okay, yeah, you point out that we have, what would you say is any $1.4 billion in tax increment financing revenue, but that would not be there for the existence of the stadium project. In other words, you're not doing that kind of redevelopment for anything else other than a stadium. Okay. And so they're right. They're right. They're absolutely right. The problem in all of this, in discussion, I'll just take a little bit of an aside on this, with this very anti-intellectual, disjointed, and hyper-political conversation around sports and economic development, is that the truth is that these sports deals are as different as me and you. what was built in that we now call Arrowhead Stadium came about through an entirely different set of circumstances from what led to Allegiant Stadium or what led to the original Coliseum or the Raiders coming back from Los Angeles to Oakland, and so on and so on and so on. Some of these deals are not good public deals. Some of them are. But what I object to are when people, like, for example, at one point, David Zirin, who's a friend, and I like David, we're not like buddies or anything, but my point is they would deliberately avoid talking about the Giant Stadium, right? We used to call Pac-Bell Park, knowing doggone well that was a great example. It wasn't entirely privately financed either. 15 million came from redevelopment. And, right? Did you know that? Yeah. But it went into an area that was earthquake damaged off King Street in China Basin and needed to be redeveloped. And it went from a place that I'm telling you, 35 years ago, you didn't want to be stuck down there. I know, because I was down there. Okay. And your thought is, how do I get out of here? If you're biking around, and how do I get out of here? Right. And what happened was that it went from a place you didn't want to be with an overpass, and then actually it's 40, I would say 45 years ago, overpass. Then the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake happened. There was an entire structure freeway, all right, that that we called the Embarcadero Freeway. And I'm typing it now because this is the internet, and I can show you these things. Darrow Freeway, okay? It's called the Embarcadero Freeway in San Francisco. That was double-decker, but it covered over much of the now open San Francisco waterfront. And so it was kind of like Blade Runner before its time, because you didn't quite know it was down below it and you didn't want to be caught down there. Okay. But it was there. And here's what that looks like. So these are different photographs of the freeway. And I've been on this freeway many times. Okay. This is what it looked like. If you take a look over here, this is 58 photo of under construction. This was another one right here, this color one. This is before and after. Someone wrote this on Medium. Before and after the freeway came down. All right. So I say all this in this rather prolonged fashion, emphasize the point that I'm about to make regarding SF Giant Stadium and Pac-Bell Park. Okay. And you see that was how far the freeway came out to Washington, and it stopped right there. Okay. Well, after the earthquake, all that had to be torn down, because if it wasn't torn down, it was going to collapse. And in some places, it was about to do that. So they took all that down, all going all the way back through that waterfront, and see, there's another shot of it. All right, what's there now is a great walkway with Red's Java House and other places. Okay, places that and this is what it looks like today. See that? You see the big difference? All right. So in that, and this is here we go. Here's a beautiful shot of it. Okay. Now to the right is where the park is, Pac-Bell Park. So the destruction of the freeway gave rise to the San Francisco we know today, Pac-Bell Park, and it was a tremendous sports deal. So that's why I'm saying you can't just, and a number of people do this, take one deal, lump it with the other, and then call them all bad. And notice that whenever anyone does that, challenge them with the example that I gave you and say, hey, look, explain the Giants Stadium in San Francisco. Just watch, all right? If we had a better understanding of how to build the most optimum deal to get in sports for economic development, I think we would have less of these discussions. But I think right now it's a pipe dream, especially given the election, the way the country seems to be going. All right. Here is Derek says, why are you so involved in Oakland when you were in Atlanta? Because I am. That's I think other people who watch this regularly know the answer to that. I'm not going to do a left turn, but I am not. First of all, I'm here for my mother. As I've said, my mother's elderly. I'm the only child helping her. I still have my place in Adams Point, paying my rent dutifully and keeping my place there. And I've got vloggers there that work with me and Zinni 62 Media. And I have a bi-coastal life, which is 90% here for my dear mother. And I like being out here, and I like there too. I like both places, and the way my life is built, I can quite literally do this, and I'm doing it. So there you are. Christopher Walker says, these greedy owners should pay for everything. That is why the 49ers now play in Santa Clara instead of SF proper, where they should be. Yeah, I know a person whose name I'm not going to mention who agree with you. He's a big honcho in California circles. I will just leave it at that. Then he says, as a Giants fan, I love Oracle Park and the area, but it's clear no matter how much tech money is brought in, there's a scary amount of homeless and drug addict souls out there on the same streets. That is true. Mr. Douglas says, with NFL fans, we can become very idealistic about minor territories. True that. That's very true. So, but now I say all that, okay? And, I say all that, and then, I really do have to once again say that I'm quite excited for the future. I don't think that NFL 2020 will be anything less than a success. And I do believe the NFL will be back in Oakland in some way. When I say in some way, I mean in terms of a team at some point during my lifetime. I really believe that. And because the area is too much, it's too rich to ignore. It has a fan base. Hey, Roland Dubs, how you doing? Nice to have you. It has a fan base that it's just out there. It's abandoned. The fan base consists of people who made going to Raider games ritual, who were local. And they had their spots picked out, their clubs, everything else. The Raiders could have carried more of them with Las Vegas. They did carry some, but they turned off a lot of people. They didn't do the right sell job. The Raiders didn't do the right sell job. They, for reasons best known to them, decided that they would do the whole, I think it was was it Cortez, I think, who left when he set off for the New World. He burned his ships, something like that. Well, that's essentially what Mark did. He burned his ships. Now, the fan base that's coming, it's going to be interesting to see what it really looks like. I mean, it's one thing for me or somebody else to go there and talk to maybe a handful of people, but you're talking about ultimately next year a 65,000 seat stadium, and the first question among all will be, okay, who really retained their tickets, right, to come? Because look, casino employees bought up the stadium. The question is, how many casino employees, how many people employed who were associated with the hospitality industry have held on to them. That's going to be the big question. And no comment right now at all. Okay? No comment right now at all is going to realize what we're really going to see next year. We're not even through this pandemic. And by all accounts, especially since the White House isn't coughing up the money that we need, 9.8 trillion, to really revive the economy, and we're going through an election, among other things, but we're going through a lot of unknowns. All right. I will say right now, we are under the direction of government officials that don't know how to pull the levers of government to fix our economic problems right now. And everyone is suffering from it. Everyone. You should be very, very afraid for what they are not doing, and so concerned that you quite literally change your life course to get involved, not just in voting, but calling your congressperson and asking them and begging them to take action. That's where we are, folks. This is a nationwide issue. But I can think of no city more affected by this than Las Vegas. And that's why I'm happy for them. However, it's going to be a very rough ride for Las Vegas, and within it, the Raiders. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. So it will be a process to watch how they come out of it. I have suggested what they should do in terms of establishing a tax increment financing zone around the stadium. Trouble is, in that unique case, it relies on people paying property taxes, right? But here's the good news. Even during this pandemic, property down there is turning over. And even during this pandemic, as you saw last weekend, people are going there. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. So like I said, I love Las Vegas. I've always loved the promise of Las Vegas. I love the history of it. My mom loves the Sinatra aspect of it, the Rat Pack, the slots. There's a lot of romanticism there. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Las Vegas is America. And as Las Vegas goes, so goes America. So it is all, okay? It is all incumbent upon us. We've got to be more than Jack Bull interested in Las Vegas revival. Because folks, if we're not, it's going to sink the rest of this country. And the reason is that because Las Vegas is relying on hospitality. And let me break it down to you as I am demanding you think about it, okay? Let me put things in perspective. I'm 58. When I was coming up, manufacturing was king. Automobiles were produced in the United States primarily. You wanted to buy a Japanese car? Because the thought was, what's not going to last, it doesn't perform. Who's ever heard of that sort of thing? You must be nuts. Come on, forget it. Gas. You're concerned about saving gas. Ha, ha, ha. Hey, Pedro, how you doing? All right. How you doing, Pedro? You're interested in saving gas? Oh, come on. All right. Then we went through the 70s, and then we had the energy crisis. And we started to think, maybe it's a good idea that we concern ourselves with more fuel-efficient cars. And around that time, the Ministry of International Trade and Industry in Japan adopted a strategy of import dumping. Now, what is that? That is this. That is financing your companies in Japan so that they can sell their cars in the United States at prices so low they're actually less than the amount of money they need on a per unit basis to pay for them. Hence the term dumping. Japan did that twice, with automobiles and with steel. And they took over much of our industry, such that by the 80s, in the late 80s, well, hey, Toyota was a thing. And then later, it went from Japan to the newly industrialized countries like Korea. And we started hearing about companies like Hyundai. Remember that? And now Hyundai is not only a thing, Hyundai is normal, and Hyundai has Genesis, which kind of looks like BMW and everything else. And now we've got this deal where Ford bought Mazda, and so Mazda's in some cases made here, and Ford in some cases made in Japan, and everything's all mixed up, right? All throughout that pattern, we were, as a country, just allowing our service industry to be replaced. We'd send it overseas. Call centers that were once in suburbs like, say, Elk Grove Village in Chicago. Next thing you know, they wound up in the South. And then they went from the South to Barbados or the Philippines. And those call centers that went in those directions took with them jobs. I personally felt that when I started my first company, Sports Business Simulations. I had a choice between using a telemarketing company in, of all places, India, or a telemarketing company in all places in suburban Chicago, Illinois, in Niles. All right. I wanted to work with the one in Niles. Okay. But here's the problem. The one in Niles is going to cost me $1,000 a month. The one in India was going to cost me $140 a month. Right? I went with neither. But that was when I personally felt the cost difference. Now you would say, Zinni, what could we have done as a nation, right, to close that gap of, roughly $900? Well, that's where subsidies come in. But we don't do those things all the time. We do them for farms because they yell. We don't do it for industry. Oh, no. We're more interested in giving the multinationals the chance to be all over the world, right, and pay no taxes and make a lot of money because they have the political spending that goes on here to make that happen, and the American worker be damned. Okay? All right? As Raider Gans just says, yeah, man. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. But this is all intertwined. Okay. I hear you. Thanks. But hey, look, all right. And I'm glad you put that up there, Raider Ganson. I didn't want to I was starting to get way down in the weeds as you, but the whole point is, look, okay. It damaged our economy to where we're only service-based. Our once great manufacturing system was damaged by ourselves, by our lack of desire to plan, to keep these jobs here, to help people, transition, right? To do what I went to school to do, economic planning. All right. So who was harmed in all that? All that money that was made, where did they spend it? Gambling. Viva Las Vegas slots, right? All that romanticism, all that was fueled by people who had, average education, but were foremans in shops and everything else, able to take their wife and kids, because that's how it was done in those days, and enjoy fun in Las Vegas for a few days. And they go back and they go to work. Okay? Today, it's different. Today, if you work, like that, I'm saying Archie Bunker stuff. You wake in a restaurant to make money. You're not doing it as a side job to make ends meet. That's your job. There was a time, folks, that wasn't always the case. People who worked in restaurants were teenagers. Okay? Bobby Soxers in the 50s. American Graffiti with, the girl with the hoop skirt, doing the drag race, all that. There were high schoolers working those jobs. It shocked the shit out of me when I realized in the late 70s and the 80s that I was seeing people who were older working as waitresses. And I'm like, whoa, all right. They used to not be the thing. Especially if you knew somebody in junior high that you thought was cute who was working down the street at the restaurant, and the next thing you know, okay, shifted out. All of that impacts where we are today. And because we are so severely depleted in terms of the ability to get a simple job with little education and make a ton of money, that allows one person to take care of a family of four, because that doesn't exist anymore. And it stopped being in existence come in 1983, and it got worse. And it got worse by 88, and it got even worse from that point to where now, what? You have people working now multiple jobs. How many jobs you got? Okay. As Eric wrote it right here, times are different now. The times are different now. And I say tearfully so, because there are a lot of people suffering. And our government can get us out of this. When you have somebody, run around talking to you about, well, that's socialist and that's this, all right? And they have no idea what they're talking about. And all the other nations around them have been spending money after money, hand over fist, to finance their companies and make sure that people are employed and have a basic income. And then your company in your country is not doing that. What you ought to be saying to the people that are, involved in behaving that way is, are you freaking nuts, dude? Stop acting like that and stop saying this garbage that makes me think you didn't go to school. But instead, you guys wind up quoting them. Stop. If you want to enjoy a Raiders game in comfort and be able to afford the tickets and not worry about whether or not you're taking money from someplace to be able to go to the Raiders game, you got to get involved in fixing this system. I'm just laying it right there in your lap. That's where we're at. It's crunch time, folks. We got to get serious. Okay? And it doesn't mean, all right? It doesn't mean, okay? Oh, hey, man, your phone got hacked. Oh, man. Okay. He says, but technical jobs have to come back in manufacturing. You're right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. He says, we're witnessing the fall of Rome in 2020. Legalized sports gambling is the last hope for many in this American dream. And Christopher Walker is absolutely right. He is absolutely right. The question is, what can we do to stave off the fall of Rome? We got to spend some money to do it. We have more people on this planet. We got more people in this country. When I was born, there were 180 million people in the United States. Now it's doubled. All right. It's crowded, man. People are moving to the suburbs like, get me out of here, All right. And I say that deliberately in Archie Bunker style, right? Okay. I love my country. We can fix this. But we got to fix the country to make sure that the NFL and Major League Baseball and Major League Soccer and golf and all these sports that we love survive as we've come to know them. Otherwise, we're not. Okay? Do you think the NFL will have low ratings with all the politics? No, the opposite. Because of the politics. Because, look, at the end of the day, everybody agrees that Black Lives Matter. Everybody agrees we want to get on with it, okay? Everybody agrees that, hey, look, we have been surrounded by how many depressing subjects have we had surrounding us on a daily basis? Like, look at today. The president, it turned out, knew that the coronavirus was terrible, but was telling you, oh, it's okay, it's not so bad. Does that not piss you off? So wouldn't you rather watch the Houston Texans travel to the Kansas City Chiefs? Of course you would. And as Pedro Gallardo just put up right here and is worth being reminded of. And is worth being reminded of, okay? And is worth being reminded of as a statement that is truer, the true is true, and that is this. purely and simply that he is absolutely right when he says it, that he has said. And right, and I'm trying to make sure this cooperates so I can do what I was about to do. But when you see it, you'll say, yeah, he's right. Allegiant Stadium is still eye candy. I'm sorry, folks. Everybody's got their opinion, but there's one thing I think we can all agree on. That is one fucking beautiful place. Okay? Okay? Can we all agree on that? I mean, it just is. That is one fucking beautiful place. All right? Chris says, we have way more in common than mainstream media tries to convince us we don't. I couldn't have said it any better. All right? He says, NBA ratings dropped 40%. Hockey has more views than the NBA. But Eric, I don't think that has anything to do with. Well, excuse me. Let me take the "I don't think" out of my statements. Look in my eyes. That's got nothing to do with politics and everything to do with the situation at hand. You have teams that are not in it. The Warriors are not in it. When you start taking teams out of the NBA situation, what do? You take out the fan base. So calculate the teams that aren't in it. Calculate the fact that they're playing the way they're playing, and then go from there. It's a different situation. Now, I'm telling you that's already. I bet you that's already changing for the playoffs. And the Milwaukee Bucks game, the Boston Celtics game against the Toronto Raptors today, the double overtime win by the Raptors. That was one of the best games, I think, in NBA history, regardless of time. And all it takes is our people talking about that on social media to turn everybody else around and say, hey, we better watch this thing. But you have to remember that people had to actually come back and then rediscover it. But if you're going to tell me that people aren't interested in the NBA because the NBA is wearing shirts that say Black Lives Matter, I'm going to tell you, you're nuts. America, get this through your head. America is integrated. We have a police problem in this country. Okay? We have a media problem in this country, which is the last bastion of white supremacy. But absent that, this country is really cool, man. We elected America's first black president, not once, we did it twice. We elected a guy that we thought of as not black, but the dude that you knew in high school and junior high school that everybody liked, and nobody said he shouldn't be president. Okay? Who got replaced by somebody that's kind of like, ugh. All right? Why? Because the guy that's was jealous of the guy that we all like. I mean, how high school is that? Think about it. Think about it, okay? Think about it. All right? Think about it. Think about it. Eric says, I just miss sports being sports. Hey, as you said, as Christopher said, and as you said, look, the world's changed, okay? He says, I talk to sports fans who are turned off because of the politics, but I agree with teams aren't there. Yeah, I mean, and you look, I'll bet you the sports fans you talk to are turned off are white and older and male or in that area, okay? But look at all the people that have marched in all the neighborhoods like Brooklyn, all white, who are also sports fans. They're not turned off, and they're able to put two and two together and say, I want my country to get with it, and I love my sports, all right? And Black Lives Matter, and I'm not black, okay? And they can say that. There are many more of them than the people you talk to. And their ranks are growing, okay? As Derek Douglas very intelligently said, we are a melting pot. As J.P. Gowan says, we are due for a major social reset. The longer people are without professional sports, gaming, entertainment, the less important they will become. And that is what I fear. Because if that happens, I think mentally, which we need the simplicity of play. they'll retain. Here's the thing, though. That's something worth considering. I don't know. I'm going to say this. I'm going to show this again. I don't know that that's the case. All right, because we always have sports, gaming, entertainment with us. Maybe not exactly the same, but there'll always be that need. So I'm going to disagree with that. That's a show. That's something to have a show around. Chris says the athletes need to speak up for the voiceless because in our society, they are truly looked up to by many poor kids that are growing up playing in the YMCA. Joseph Amandura says the NFL didn't have a choice but to listen to the people, especially the player and taking a more active role. Hence the elimination of Hank Williams Jr. anthem for Monday Night Football, something that I thought was a great vlog that Joseph did at Zenny62, which is more than worthy of your attention and absorption. Okay, it was quite well done. And Pedro says, I'm not that political, but have you seen Republican rig wing memes so biased? I haven't. Raider Gann says athletes need to educate themselves on the issues fully before putting themselves out there. Much like Cardi B versus Candace Owen, got to start putting facts first. Oh, Candace. Jeez. Anyway, only thing I criticize NBA for is not protesting China. That's a great point. But I think, once, what will really get all this set is when all of our financial situations are intact. I don't know if anybody out here lives in Iowa or knows somebody that lives in Iowa or Idaho and was suffering the Derico storm. Do you realize, if you know this, the Derico storm was barely talked about? Barely talked about. And yet, you had the Derico storm barely talked about. You had what? 600,000 people without power. 300,000 of them without power in Idaho for a 21-day period. You want to know when there's a problem with our country? Is when we have that many people go without power for that long, and it's not a scandal. That's worse than Katrina. Okay? All right? That's worse than Katrina. The America that I knew would fix that. This America acts like it never happened. The president went to Cedar Rapids. He stayed for all of 30 minutes. He never toured the area. What did he do? He went back to tweeting about democratic cities and protests that he was basically manufacturing to start because he was sending federal troops in that didn't need to be there because he wanted to gin up a fake controversy to help his reelection efforts. He's doing all that while the people in Iowa are suffering. This is your country, folks. It's my country too. So I ask you, what do you want? A Democrat or Republican would not do this. You hear me? A Democrat or Republican would not do this, which tells you what? The person in the White House is neither a Democrat or a Republican. The person in the White House has essentially his own party. What are you going to do about it? Ronald Reagan would never allow this. I'm a Democrat. I thought, well, Ronald Reagan was awesome. Okay. Awesome. Arnold Schwarzenegger, I voted for him twice. America. I'm going to lay out a prediction. Yeah, it is buffering. I don't know what's. I'm closing some windows here, and I think if I close some windows, that is happening. Yes. And it should be getting better. See if I can get rid of that. All right. It looks like it's getting better. Yeah. Yeah, it's getting better. Okay, cool. All right, cool. All right. So that's what happens when you close a lot of windows, folks. All right. They be gone. They be gone, man. But it's, kicking up some RAM, right? I got rid of it. All right, cool. Okay, now I'll just go a cappella. Talk without okay. He will be open to many proxies. Yeah, folks. We've got, all right, we've got an exciting NFL. The two rich dudes, okay? David says it quite right. Sports is a microcosm of our society, and both are going down the toilet. I don't agree with that one. I don't think here's David, my question to you is for that in part. Stevie Wonder once said in his song in it, but not of it, you're not helping to make this earth a place sometimes called hell. Is that what you're saying? All right. Because my counter is that you can't be today in it and not of it, because if you that actually goes in reverse of the old saying now, the new old saying, silence is complicit. Any more power, always support the 99% or 1%. Yeah, you should always support the players. Always. I mean, you should never want to support anything that looks like a slave situation. Because that structure by its existence is ripe to fail. All right. During Texans game. So I'm gonna do live stream during the game. Anyone wants to join me? By the way, for Zenny 62 members, join that one. Will not be paid. I need to cut back on just some so I have some mock and Raider Gann says supporting the leagues is supporting the 1% though. Well, look, I'm not part of the 1%, but I support Zen62 Media too. But look, if I get there, if I'm on my way, I will take you with me. How's that? We're all in this together, man. Ask Joseph. Joseph's part of my team. He's got stock in it. Right, Joseph? Joseph is Godfather Media. We're okay. We're okay. We're going, man. Just give us, we're little, we're getting big, thanks to the NFL. All right. So we'll be back during the game tomorrow night. Start before the game. I'm going to give you a specific start time, okay? We'll start. Okay. We'll start. All right, that's an early pregame because I don't think the game starts until what? 8? Well, 7 p.m. Let me check that. Let me see what time the game specifically starts. Game time, I say Texans v Chiefs. Chiefies. Texans versus the Chiefs. That is 8:20 p.m. So 8 o'clock. All right. So we'll be back at 8 p.m. Eastern. All right. 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back Thursday for Texans versus Chiefs. That is a game every loyal Raider fan will want to be a part of. All right. Hey, thanks everybody. We'll see you. All right. Okay, look. We'll start. Look at that. Here. Okay, here. Love you all very much. You all are incredible. And please don't worry. Be happy. We will not only get through this, we will improve our country. See ya.